Last month, I brought our viewers a report about an African American woman that was tased in her own home by Harrisonburg police officers. In that report, I identified the woman in the khaki pants and blue shirt as the woman that was tased. I was wrong. The woman in the dress, Melissa Duncan, was the woman that officers tased. The woman in the khaki pants and blue shirt is Duncan's wife, Nina Bradley. Bradley was not tased, but claims she was choked by police officers that night. So now if you watch the body cam video again, it is very clear that Duncan is not acting aggressively towards the officers. And in fact, officers attempted to arrest Bradley, not Duncan. So why then was Duncan tased? Officers claim she assaulted them after they stormed inside of her home like they were after a dangerous felon. Yet the police officer's own body camera footage doesn't show any evidence that Duncan, or Bradley for that matter, assaulted the police officers. And let's remember, folks, the police did this because the young African American gay women allegedly violated a noise ordinance and refused to make their company leave. And to the people out there that were saying she deserved to be tased because of how she talked to the cops, it was Bradley that was the main one arguing with the police. So why does that make it okay for them to tase Duncan? Duncan didn't hurl any racial slurs at the police officers. And even if she had, it still doesn't justify the police storming into a home in a terrifying manner without a warrant to aggressively arrest and manhandle two African American gay women. Had these been two white women, would officers have acted this aggressively? Mike Donovan is the president and CEO for Nexus Services Incorporated. Donovan is advocating for the women and is funding Duncan's defense. Here's what he had to say to people that are justifying the police's action, that think because the police were called names by Bradley, that gave them the right to tase Duncan.
It's a little thing called white privilege. You see, the white supremacists who gathered in Charlottesville to conduct a race riot, which ultimately occurred in the streets of Charlottesville, see, they didn't get tased by officers. Officers got up and walked away before lifting a hand against white supremacists bringing a race riot to Charlottesville, Virginia. Isn't it interesting that white police officers treat black females who are unarmed in their own home, that they don't have a warrant to search, very differently? See, I don't think it makes any sense. I'm not going to sit here and answer questions about whether these women should have been nicer, whether they should have been more polite to the officers. It's their home. They had turned the music down, they weren't having a party anymore, and they wanted the police to leave. And you know what? The police had to leave because they didn't have a warrant, and the owners of the home were telling them to do so. When those officers didn't leave, those women got upset. Darn right they did. But how many of those gun-toting white supremacists would have been nice to an officer standing outside their door refusing to leave? None of them. How many of them would have been tased? We only have to look to Charlottesville to answer that question, or any community in Rockingham County that has those folks living in it who the police don't harass every day. So I'm tired of this false equivalency of the actions of the Harrisonburg police related to these women versus what the Harrisonburg police do not do every day and standing up against racists in the community. You know, we have officers that responded that didn't like being called out, didn't like being told that they couldn't be there, and decided to go into that home without a warrant, decided to handcuff Melissa's wife, then choke her after handcuffing her, which is police misconduct, which is violence against an individual long before they ever tased anyone. There's no evidence that either of those women assaulted those officers, and for the police or the community, for individuals who are sympathetic to police that create these types of incidents, for those people to use this as an argument is in itself abjectly racist.
Harrisonburg Police Chief Eric English was only several months into his new job as the city's top cop when his officers tased Duncan. English is Harrisonburg's first black police chief. If members of the black community think that they are going to get any sympathy from English, they are highly mistaken. He stands behind his officers and said the body camera footage speaks for itself.
Again, as I mentioned here tonight, you look at the video, you gauge it for what it is. I mean, the video is what it is. You don't change it. There's nothing changed on the video. So I don't want to get into any more detail as far as going into that particular case.
English declined to comment further on the incident, citing that it is an active case in the courts. This is a developing story, and we will continue to update our viewers as more information becomes available. In Harrisonburg, Theodore Whitelow, Breaking Through News.